deep breath, take it in, feel my pulse begin to climb. It's a passion deep inside. No one can hold me back today. Drop the beat, let it flow, let it soar on high. Release me from these chains. They're never gonna stop me. Haters better back out of my life. I step up, make my name. Never gonna stop my chance to shine. Hit my mark, I am a flame. Burning boldly, illuminating. I'm gonna take control, hit the top. No one's gonna hold me back no more. It's my destiny, and you can never stop me trying to full control. It's my life, they can't hold me back no more. I know who I am, I know who I'm gonna be. On your screen while you stream, hit me all around. Let my vibe grow on the ground. Feeling my flow, it's a brand new sound. Hit the floor, shout it out, I'ma take the bow. My body's ever charged. Don't ever try and stop me. Haters better back out of my life. Your darkness will not claim. Never gonna stop my chance this time. I'm heating just like a flame. Burning boldly, illuminating. I'm gonna take control, hit the top. No one's gonna hold me back no more. It's my destiny, and you can never stop me trying to full control. It's my life, they can't hold me back no more. I know who I am, I know who I'm gonna be. In full control, it's my life, leading just how I want to. The time is mine, and I know that I got to. I'm gonna take control, hit the top. No one's gonna hold me back no more. It's my destiny, and you can never stop me trying to full control. It's my life, they can't hold me back no more. I know who I am, I know who I'm gonna be. Take control, hit the top. No one's gonna hold me back no more. It's my destiny, and you can never stop me trying to full control. It's my life, they can't hold me back no more. I know who I am, I know who I'm gonna be.
Looking sexy, looking fly. Come on, baby, dry your eyes. Looking sexy, looking fly. Come on, baby, dry your eyes. Looking sexy, looking fly. Come on, baby, dry your eyes. I'm walking through the night, and when you get inside, I wanna dance with you and make my dreams come true. I'm walking through the night, and when you get inside, I wanna dance with you and make my dreams come true. Looking sexy, looking sexy, looking sexy, looking fly. Come on, baby, dry your eyes. Looking sexy, looking fly. Come on, baby, dry your eyes. Get on your feet, move to the beat. Just release, that's where we need. Get on your feet, move to the beat. Just release, that's where we need.
Come on now.
Looking sexy, looking fly. Come on, baby, dry your eyes. Looking sexy, looking fly. Come on, baby, dry your eyes. Looking sexy, looking fly. Come on, baby, dry your eyes. Looking sexy, looking fly. Come on, baby, dry your eyes.
Good evening and welcome to a virtual rendition of Brands Hatch Indy for round 5 of the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series, organised by the MSVT organisation. MSVT, of course, providing track days and entry-level racing in the United Kingdom, expanding into the world of sim racing here on Assetto Corsa. This time at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit. We've got a special 90-minute race for our penultimate round of the season, but we'll tell you a bit more about that later on. For now, let's introduce what is a slightly different commentary box from normal. It's myself, Adam Weller, joined by Alex Goldschmidt. Hello, Alex. How are you doing?
Good evening, Adam. Good evening, everybody. Pleasure to be on what is going to be the penultimate round of the EnduroKA Winter Series, and it's a track that I really, really love. It's actually my local Brands Hatch Indy in the Garden of England in the south in the southeast, and it's going to be an absolutely brilliant race tonight, I think.
It's my most frequently visited circuit as well. Not my local, because I was born on the Isle of Wight, and there is no such thing as a local when you're on an island. But this is the one that I had a season ticket for. Here's the calendar as we've had it so far, starting off at Donington. We've taken in Silverstone, Snetterton, Alton Park. We're now at Brands Hatch Indy. And that to be confirmed on the last round, well, that has now been confirmed. It seems we'll be off to America, packing our bags for Laguna Seca in a fortnight's time here in the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. I've already mentioned that this is brought to you by MSVT Racing and, of course, Grid Finder. We've also got the wonderful support of Positive Perception. Positive Perception, one of the key backers of this. They are very handy when it comes to putting a unique spin on your real-life Ford EnduroKA racing machine. We've also, of course, got Turn 7. Turn 7, another great partner for both this series, the Sim series, and the real-life EnduroKA category, providing racewear for competitors. And then there is Burton Power as well, who are a key force in actually developing and producing the race kits for the EnduroKA machines in real life. They're also a regular entrant led by Andy Burton with mixed success. I think even Andy would tell you that over the course of their EnduroKA racing career. So we've got a condensed format of our endurance racing that you'll be familiar with from the real life EnduroKA category. Usually these races are 60 minutes in length. Today, of course, they are 90 minutes, and everyone across this championship is competing for prizes as well, prizes that can lead them into the world of real life racing. Our top 3 drivers in this season will receive a fully paid ARDS racing license test. That effectively is your entry-level racing license here in the United Kingdom. And if you have your ARDS license already, as a few of these drivers do, because they already compete in real-life EnduroKA, then they can hand over the opportunity to a friend or a family member or whomever they deem fit. Registration and race entry for the 2023 season is open, as a matter of fact. So if you are an existing team or a new team looking to get involved, perhaps a team in the process of building an EnduroKA, you can now register and get your race entries in for what will surely be another stonking season in 2023 for EnduroKA. I've been there on the front line for several of the events across the years of EnduroKA. And Alex, I mean, it's a great cost-effective way into motorsport, isn't it? And that carries over into this sim series.
I mean, the beauty of having a one-make series is that everyone's on the same level playing field. It promotes driver skills. It's a great learning opportunity for drivers that are getting into grassroots motorsport, and with the EnduroKA series, it's a perfect example of that. And you know, I mean, I worked for Ford back in the early 2000s, funnily enough at Dagenham Motors, and uh, my car was actually, my first car was actually a KA1. And then I got promptly put into a KA summer collection, which may be the laughing stock of the sales department. Basically, it was a KA with a fabric roof that could actually go, you know, like you have panoramic roofs in cars nowadays, like the glass panoramic roofs. Well, you put a KA, you decide to cut out some of the roof and put a fabric full sliding roof over the top of it. Felt like a sardine can.
And yeah, I mean, they're awesome little cars and they make very good race cars. We'll show an example of how good they can be as race cars in the digital world by taking a look at some highlights from our previous encounter.
And then as soon as the lights disappear, we will go racing for the 4th time this season here at Alton Park. Lights on, and they go out now. We will wait to see who gets the best of the starts. It looks like potentially that could be our pole man, Bobby Simmons, that managed to get away well. Jamie Peters-Ennis looking around the outside early on. Tom O'Farrell trying to get in there as well, side by side. Through turn 1 they go, and then down the avenue towards Denton's. It's a bit manic in the background, a couple of cars going around.
However, over the first time this year, it looks as though we've got the safety car out on track.
We do indeed, and we mentioned it before before we went live that we hadn't had one. They can't really be commentators' curse as we weren't live at the time. So that's David Evans coming under yet more pressure from James Black. Tom O'Farrell, of course, round 3 winner, right the way down in 15th place after the lap 1 incident. Harder on the brakes up the inside of David Evans goes James Black, gets the car slowed down, but now a few moments time. That's a great battle. Joe Kingston Lee trying to, is that work his way around the outside or defend? I couldn't quite pick out what. I think he did both at the same time.
Yeah, attack and defence. Stick your elbows out, crack on with it. But for the moment, yeah, Joe Kingston Lee is just managing to hang on to the position he can. And then Tom O'Farrell, who's also looking to try and recover, that's just up the road from that. Tom having been pitched into that spin early doors in this race. Race leaders are about to head once more out on Deer Leap and over the
This
start.
is Frank Frostig having just made a position under pressure from losing it once again. Glenn Copeland side by side. He's got the inside line for turn 1. Can he make the move stick? Yes, he can on the way in, on the way out, running wide as you'd expect from Frank Frostig. Time for this race to change complexion completely. Jamie Peters-Ennis has managed to close up to the tail of Bobby Simmons once again. In towards Lodge Corner they go. A bit of a lock-up, running slightly wide there is Bobby Simmons. The door swings open and Jamie Peters-Ennis retakes the lead.
Side by side, David Evans just with his nose ahead. Having lost the place, he's regained it, but Peter Jones is trying to brave it out around the outside of Island to get the inside line for Shell Oil's corner. He breaks as late as he can. They are still side by side round through Shell Oil's corner, and finally, at least for the moment, he hangs on to the place, and even more so now, I'm afraid, as David Evans runs wide, coming out to Shell Oil's corner.
The few laps that preceded that, but Jamie Peters-Ennis heading towards the final corner, 1.2 seconds to the good. There's 10 seconds on the clock. It's going to be tight towards the line. We'll wait to see whether the checkered flag is waved. I've got a feeling it will be, but Jamie Peters-Ennis over Deer Leap for what I believe will be the final time towards the line now, just about. Jamie Peters-Ennis wins round 4 of the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series here at
So then, after that 4th round of the season, it is Bobby Simmons at the top of the standings in the points. 95 points to the good at the moment, just 3 points clear of James Black, who we understand isn't here this weekend. So James Black, unfortunately, not going to be second probably by the time we go to Laguna Seca. Tom O'Farrell and Colin Dunn, 79 points apiece in 3rd and 4th place. And Jack Mace, they're 5th in the standings. One driver who's not there in the top 5, but is an integral part of each and every round of the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series, I'm very glad to say is in the box with me. It is Toby Owen. Toby, how are you today, good sir?
Good evening, everyone. I'm doing very well, thank you, Adam, and nice to speak to you again in EnduroKA terms.
Yes, I know. It's weird not to be talking to you about how you've ruined a set of tyres at Anglesey, for example, as was the case last year. Of course, you're an integral part of driving force behind this series, and one thing you've been keen to emphasise to me in the lead to this debut for me in EnduroKA Winter Sim Series is the crossover between real life and sim, more specifically taking people from the sim into real life. And I suppose that rather ties in nicely to yours and my good friends at Gridfinder.
Yes, indeed. I mean, we've seen over the last year quite a few drivers in the EnduroKA paddock and around the other club motorsport series as well, moving from sim racing into having a try at the real world thing. Sim racing is, of course, its own discipline and is very competitive in its own right. But if anyone does want to get involved in real racing, then club racing is absolutely the way to start. And EnduroKA, I personally think it's one of the finest examples because it's something that you can do in a team. You don't have to commit everything yourself. You can share the experience with others, and it's very cost effective when you do it that way. The amount of minutes you get per pound, you really can't beat in EnduroKA.
I agree with that. I know that you're in the pre-grid getting ready to go, but one last thing, of course, we know it's a slightly different format here with a 90-minute race, practically 1 minute per lap, of course, as well. Talk us through some of the differences from the driver's seat this time out in this race.
Well, we run every other race in the daytime, and obviously as we go into the nighttime, just as you do in the real world, then the conditions sort of start to play with your mind a little bit. When you have a braking marker that's in the trackside furniture, it's a little bit more difficult to see when it's dark. And obviously, the headlights point forwards. As racing drivers, we're always used to looking to the apex to sort of look through the corner, and the headlights don't point that way. So it is a bit more difficult to corner with the same consistency lap after lap when it's dark. So the potential for a few locked brakes, few wide moments, few mistakes maybe creeping in towards the end of the race should make it tactically quite intriguing. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Longer 90-minute format, and I believe 2 stops as well, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So 2 mandatory pit stops, which I mean, people have already been talking about, do they change tyres in this one, which has not really been a feature of any of the other races that we've seen so far. So adds another strategic element as well. And because the lap's so short, anyone making a pit stop, they're going to be in traffic. They might even be having to deal with, being lapped by the cars that they were racing a couple of laps ago, whilst the order shuffles itself in the middle of the race. So I'm sure it'll be really difficult for you guys to keep track of, but it's going to make for a great race.
Heartily agree on both counts, Toby. We'll let you get your final preparations underway, and what we will also do now, as we're just moments away from getting this race started, is talking you through the grid for this one. You see our pole sitter. It's Leon Hopper on pole position in the Gridfinder car alongside Tom O'Farrell of 2F Media Productions. There was just 0.03 of a second between them on the front row of the grid. Bobby Simmons and Jamie Peters-Ennis on row 2 of the grid. Joe Kingston Lee and Ollie Ricks on row 3. Jack Mace and Colin Dunn on row 4. Then it's Nick Krieg and Greg Giles on row 5. Row 6, Peter Jones and David Evans. Then it's JJ Hind and Scott Thorne in 13th and 14th place. Andrew Greer-Hardy, there's one of many familiar names from the real life series, alongside Aaron Kirby on row 8. Then it's Nathan Down and Tim Parsons. James Wakefield and Alex Saville will round out our top 20. Chris Humphreys starting 21st, and I understand Mark Cockerton unable to take the start owing to technical issues. We are just moments away then from 90 minutes of racing, Alex.
Yeah, it seems like they're already starting to build the revs ahead of 90 minutes of madness here at Brands Hatch. I can't wait.
You and me both. So the cars are waiting with purpose for the start of this motor race. And as we said, it will be 90 minutes. It will be somewhere just under 90 laps or just over 80 laps, depending on your interpretation. The lights are coming up on the screen, and you know what that means. It's time to go racing, and it looks like it's a good start from the outside of the front row there from O'Farrell. I think it may well be Tom O'Farrell that leads into the first corner, but let's hold our horses on that one, because still on the inside is Leon Hopper there. But no, it is going to be O'Farrell with at least a nose ahead going through Paddock Hill Bend for the first time, and on the run to Druids. He is clear at the front. There are cars going off circuit in the background, Predictably, a little bit of carnage on lap number 1. Leon Hopper settles into second place, just ahead of Bobby Simmons in third. Simmons trying to find a way past our pole sitter. Didn't catch exactly which one of the cars that peeled off, exited stage right on turn 1, lap 1. But just about everyone else has managed to get through cleanly. We do have a move on now for second place. Panel bashing between Hopper and Simmons. Simmons with the outside line here through the final section of the circuit, but Leon Hopper just about covers off second place for now. The purple and yellow car of Simmons, though, with a good run down the main straight, side by side towards Paddock Hill Bend on the second lap of the race, Alex.
Yeah, Simmons really keeping it nice and tight to the inside of the Brabham Straights as Leon Hopper just trying to hold on for that second position, and Simmons does a little bit of door rubbing and gets through at Paddock Hill Bend for second position. Keep your eyes on Jamie Peters-Ennis. Jamie was side by side at Alton Park last time out with Bobby Simmons, and they were battling for the race lead when the lights went down, so Hopper's not going to give this one up without a fight.
No, absolutely not. And you mentioned Jamie Peters-Ennis. Of course, he is a colleague of ours in the broadcasting world, as well as a very prolific driver here in the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. Has had some good results so far. Sits in fourth for now. He'll be looking to break into that top 3. Leon Hopper for now is dropping position, so that could be the opportunity that Peters-Ennis needs. It's 5th place for Mace at the moment, as in the points standings, so it seems that consistency is key for him. There's JJ Hind in 8th place, and he's going to have the slipstream here down the Brabham Straight to complete the second lap of the race. And slipstreaming in these EnduroKA machines is critical, a massive part of the game. Up the inside, just ahead of Hind there, was at least attempting to, was Jones in 7th place. So he has moved up a little bit, hasn't he? Still has the inside line. That's Peter Jones, and he has made a move there at Druids Bend for 6th place. So Peter Jones already 5 spots up, and we've now got side by side for 7th place. JJ Hind trying to follow him into 7th place, but that was never going to work. Not with someone like Ollie Ricks, who doesn't give up a position if he can avoid it. Contact as they came onto the Cooper Straight. Thankfully, everybody kept it straight.
Yeah, JJ Hind, one of the actual debutants, along with him and Aaron Kirby. Kirby currently down in 14th position, but yeah, JJ Hind has literally gotten to grips with the EnduroKA style of racing already. We're not even into the first 5 laps of the race, but Tom O'Farrell from 2F Media Productions currently setting the fastest lap of the race in the number 97. That is just a shade over 1 minute and 5 seconds. So they're all running at about the 65-second mark. And as Toby said a little bit earlier on, it's got a lovely little onboard picture-in-picture, and this is going to be quite crucial on how the drivers attack the circuit. I mean, Graham Hill Bend, you and I both know that is where you can go very, very wide, and I've seen trucks go through there. If anyone might remember the Schmidt brothers from a few years ago, as Ollie Ricks is getting he's got Dunn behind him trying to bash in the rear bumper and try to get through around the outside of him, through into Graham Hill Bend, going onto Cooper Straight. That's never going to happen in a month of Sundays.
Yeah, to avoid the pun, a move from Colin Dunn is never finished until the car is well away from him. Ollie Ricks there in 8th place, then coming under some pressure. You've also got Down involved with that one as well. I believe Down has also made up some places. Where did he start? On the grid, 17th Nathan Down started, and he's worked himself up into the top 10 already, up into 9th place. So we've definitely had some moving and shaking there on the first lap. And when you have cars exiting stage left, stage right at the first corner, the general fact that these cars are so small, meaning you can go 2 or 3 wide in the first few corners, there's a lot of opportunity for people to scythe up the order early on, isn't there?
There is, especially with back of the grid Tom Bunton, because he missed qualifying and has started from stone dead last, and he's nearly halfway through the field. He's up to 13th position now. So it just goes to show it doesn't matter where you start, it's where you finish, and that's always the case with the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. We've seen that over the course of the previous 4 rounds.
Absolutely the case. on the real life circuits as well. So Bunton making his way up the order, as we alluded to there, up to 13th position, and will be looking to scythe his way up a little bit further before the pit stops come in. At the 10-minute marker, I believe we will be at least eligible to make our first of 2 mandatory pit stops across the 90 minutes, and the pit window will shut with 10 minutes to go. So there's 70 minutes to play with when it comes to serving your 2 mandatory stops. Interesting to hear that tyres are going to be a factor this time. I don't believe petrol is as much of a factor. These things can do 2.5 to 3 hours on a tank sometimes. Out in the wilderness. Here is Jack Mace in 5th place. We're talking about Jamie Peters-Ennis maybe making some inroads on the podium. I think he might have to get his elbows out first to preserve 4th position. He's got Simmons and Hopper battling ahead of him for 2nd place, but Jamie Peters-Ennis coming under pressure.
Yeah, and Leon Hopper now closing in on Mr. Simmons once again. Battle for 2nd still not done and dusted. Just to think, folks, we are going to be going into the night time. That's why the headlights are ablaze on all of the cars. And Hopper trying to force the issue going up to Druids. It's going to be a bit of a squeeze. Thank goodness Leon Hopper decided to engage the brakes early into Druids on that particular occasion, because that could have been rather nasty.
Yes, it looks like still trying to find a way to the inside at Graham Hill Bend, and a little bit of contact there applied to Jamie Peters-Ennis, but he manages to hold the car strong for the time being. Running it very wide behind him is Mace, who is clearly stating his intentions to get through. I appreciate that Jamie Peters-Ennis is running 46. Rossi fan, recognise Rossi fan, but well, have to go for... Oh, and there's contact. Jamie Peters-Ennis and Mace do make contact, and Peters-Ennis is embedded into the gravel at clearways like hundreds upon hundreds of touring car drivers and indeed EnduroKA drivers before him. I hope he avoided the wall, but we can see that he is just having to regain his tarmac now. 17th place, make that 19th place for Jamie Peters-Ennis. He's going to have to get his head back in the game after that one, but that will be bitterly frustrating so early in this race.
Especially with one of the, the biggest sort of circumferences in terms of corners through Surtees and into Clark Curve, and just in front of him it looks like there's a few things kicking off. Someone getting a bit too close to the gravel coming out of Paddock Hill Bend. Seen many contretemps there in person and seeing happen in real life, where someone does get it embedded in the gravel, but touch wood. Jamie Peters-Ennis was very, very lucky. If that had been in the wall, that would have been a straightaway slam dunk trip to the pit lane.
Yeah, for sure. Here's Leon Hopper then in 3rd position, still trying to find his way back towards the top 2. Of course, all of this battling between Simmons and Hopper is working out wonderfully for our race leader, Tom O'Farrell, who's already got a lead of approaching 4.2 seconds out there at the sharp end. Almost Adam Blair-esque for those of you who follow EnduroKA in the real world. IP Racing's hot shoe, ex-Porsche Carrera Cup Germany driver. Peter Jones on the defensive. He's got himself up to 4th place as a byproduct of that contact between Mace and Peters-Ennis. So Jones starting out at the top 10, already up to 4th. It looked like something might have been going on up at the top of Druids as well, but Jones is having to fight off Mace here, and he's not gone to the inside. He's not gone defensive. I think he knows it might be too little too late as he flicks into Surtees Bend, and it is going to be Mace back into 4th place, or is it? Because Peter Jones at Clearways and Clark trying to find his way back through. It's going to be yet another drag race down to Paddock Hill Bend, and I wouldn't really want to pick a horse in this fight. This looks very, very close.
Yeah, as long as they stay within a couple of door widths of each other, they'll be absolutely rosy, especially coming down here at the Bramham Straight. But going into Paddock Hill, you've got that blind crest to contend with. Jones is keeping it pinned round the outside. This is going to be a brave move if he keeps that through. He's going to run a little bit wide, but not go through the gravel. So, yeah, this is going to be way too close. Cool. And a change for 2nd. Leon Hopper up the inside of Mr. Simmons, but Simmons is going to get the run down into Graham Hill Bend, or is he? No, Leon Hopper gets back to 2nd position, Adam.
Yeah, very well done there from Leon to move his way back up into second, but of course he will have to worry about the toe going towards Paddock Hill on the next time down the Brabham Straight. Meanwhile, 4th and 5th position still under contest here, just turning in, slicing the nose of Mace there. Was the new 4th place runner, of course, starting well outside the top 10, Peter Jones. He's now in a fairly clear 4th place, but Mace is under pressure now. Can't quite see which car that is going up there with Mace. If we,
I think that might be JJ Hind. I think that's JJ Hind.
It is.
Oh my goodness, he is definitely, I think, a dark horse in tonight's festivities, and he's keeping it pinned on the inside at Paddock Hill Bend. He's going to get the inside line, the run up to Druids, as we continue to see, and Hind's going to send it up the inside. Is he going to take position? He has got it. That was, you know what, that was neatly timed, but he's got to watch out because, yeah, I think the thing is, if you get that run out of Druids like we just saw with JJ Hind, and you time it up nicely, you get the inside line coming out of the corner, you're going to have the overspeed because you're going to have that extra momentum carry and that confidence in the car as well.
Yeah, exactly right. The outside at Druids, if you've got a nose ahead, can certainly be preferable going into Graham Hill. So JJ Hind in the number 5 is up into 5th place. Looking further back to Ollie Ricks in 13th now. So Ollie's lost a little bit of headway out there. Tom Bunton just ahead of him. And then you've got Kirby in 11th place, as you said, one of the debutantes here today, just ahead in 11th. And Bunton trying to go defensive here. I think he wants to cut the nose off of Ricks, but he's going to struggle to do so. Ricks with the nose ahead. The 795 car is going to make a nuisance of himself on the inside into Paddock Hill Bend. They do touch a little bit. Somehow both cars remain in the right direction, and Bunton, with the better run up towards Druids, manages to retain 12th place. But anytime we see two cars touching at Paddock Hill Bend, at least one of us is contractually obligated to win. So I'm glad you did it, Alex.
Yeah, it's when you have the unstoppable force versus the immovable object, and you see which one comes out on top. But second position still being hotly contested. Bobby Simmons closing in on Leon Hopper again. And these two have been swapping positions over the last nearly 13 minutes of this 90-minute race here at Brands Hatch, as Bobby Simmons gets a bit close to the white line on the outside of Paddock Hill Bend to try and carry the momentum through, takes a wallop of curbing on the apex, and is still keeping Leon Hopper very, very honest indeed. I mean, the gap hasn't been any more than, what, maybe a couple of tenths of a second through certain parts of the lap here, especially going through into Paddock Hill Bend off of the Brabham Straight.
Very rarely has it been over half a second, that much is for certain. Simmons getting a slightly better run here on to the Cooper Straight and towards our final few corners of the lap. Bobby Simmons in the 48 car, maybe looking for a bit of that Jimmy Johnson magic there in that battle. There's Jamie Peters-Ennis just fighting for 15th place at the moment and getting a nose ahead of Saville there for 15th place. Of course, Saville, who started down in 20th, he's made up some places in the early carnage. But for Jamie Peters-Ennis, this is very much a game of recovery now after that collision a few laps ago.
It is a bit of damage limitation. It's a real shame for Jamie because, you know, we've seen him battling at the sharp end. I mean, Alton Park was, you know, hand over fist his best results of the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. But, you know, there's 2 pit stops these drivers have to negotiate, and they are mandatory. So could there be an interesting strategy that Mr. Peters-Ennis actually has up his sleeve? You just don't know, because we don't have any idea what the drivers have got planned. How, you know, are they going to take tyres on the first stop? How long is it going to be before those first stops take place? The nature of Brands Hatch, you've got so much lateral sideways movement on the sidewalls of these tyres, and if you push the tyres too hard too quickly, you are going to possibly find yourself between a rock and a hard place. You can have a car that's going to be skittish all over the road or the asphalt here at Brands Hatch, and then you've got to make that decision saying, if I take these tyres, how much pace can I unlock, and how much am I going to lose to the people that I'm competing against tonight?
Exactly right. So that pit window has been open for 5 minutes now, and you'll note that Jack Mace is down in 19th. So I believe he has made his first of 2 mandatory pit stops. As Andrew Greer-Hardy here, side by side with Saville. So it's Greer-Hardy on the inside there in the Not Lotus. The 119 car leans a little bit on Saville and makes the position up. Greer-Hardy, who has competed in EnduroKA's transferring his skill set over into the world of sim for Team Catus. It's nice that that's nice and bold for us on the side of the car, and he moves his way up to 16th position.
Yeah, whereas Mr. O'Farrell is just, at the moment, quite literally checking out, but we now go back to the battle between Messrs. Jones and Hind in the battle for 4th position. JJ Hind has done an absolutely sterling job. 16 minutes in, and he's already up 8 places, just on pure flat-out pace, and he's looking to the inside. Orr Jones tried to shut the door. Hind's getting a little bit tail-happy going through the apex of Paddock Hill Bend, but he's keeping Jones very, very honest up the hill in towards Druids. There's not enough room to fit a KA through there, I'm afraid, JJ. Got to try that one again.
Yeah, no, that was a speculative look to the inside at Druids. He's going to probably have another one at Graham Hill Bend. Tries to get a good run, I think, more than anything, out of Graham Hill. He might well have it, because Jones there running it very, very wide indeed. If Motorsport UK's 2023 proposal for track limits comes true, then he would get a penalty for that one, I'm sure. JJ Hines looking to the inside in the last corner through Clark Curve Clearways, and Hind having to settle for now, but he's going to try and get the slipstream towards Paddock Hill Bend. Let's see if he's going to draw close enough as they cross the line once again to start lap 17 of this race. I don't think he's going to be close enough for a move this time. Does he carry the momentum through Paddock Hill Bend? Certainly, he was a little bit quicker to the apex there, but I'm not sure he's going to draw alongside the 25 car in time for a move. I've been proven wrong before, though. I think there might have been a little bit of lag between the two of them there, because clearly there was no visual contact, but it looked as though Jones received a ghostly shove going into Druids there.
Yeah, I do like the fact of what Mr. Jones has got on the back underneath the rear windshield. Well, see you. And JJ Hine is going, well, I'm going to see you. Bye-bye. Now he gets through on the Cooper Straight heading into Surtees. Yeah, I mean, with sim racing, there's always that, you know, the little bit of lag spikes, a little bit of ping, maybe a little bit of netcode here or there, depending on internet connection. But JJ Hine now, that is 9 places. Bravo, good sir, bravo. As Greg Giles now closing in on Mr. Down, and that is going to be a slipstream fest all the way out of Clark Curve, down the Brabham Straight and into Paddock Hill Bend. So Greg Giles pulls to the inside. He's going to go for the run for 7th position and gets ahead before they even hit the apex. That was nicely timed by Greg Giles just there. He teed it up nicely.
Yeah, very nicely done by Giles. Immediately tries to cut to the inside to go defensive, but he's not going to achieve that. Nathan Down gets back past in the number 40 car for 7th place, so Nathan Down will not go down without a fight. There are so many names that work well for puns like this. Giles back up the inside in the 93, little bit of contact between them, a little bit of fender on fender, nothing that the Dagenham dustbin won't fix, and up into 7th place goes Giles for the time being. Of course, if you are familiar with EnduroKA racing, having been trackside or indeed having watched some of the MSV live streams before, you'll note that this racing is very similar indeed to what we see out of the drivers in the real world. And so many parallels to be drawn, not just in terms of some of the driver lineup, but also the fact that we're using this Brands Hatch Indy circuit. Of course, into the night race, you might associate that with Brick Car primarily. And of course, in real life, we run a 500 lapper at the Brands Hatch Indy circuit with these EnduroKA machines. We've slightly tamed that distance for the Winter Sim series, of course. But there are many wonderful parallels to be drawn. There's David Evans in 15th place, so he has been dispatched by Jamie Peters-Ennis now, who's moved himself up into 14th, and I believe Saville having a scrap further back with Mace as well. So that's interesting, because if Mace did in fact pit, as I think he may have done. He hasn't actually lost that much time because he's on the back of Savile at the moment for 18th.
Yeah, Greyhard going a little bit of rallycross coming out of Graham Hill Bend. As Greg Giles is quite literally... Oh, it's going to be 3 wide coming out of Clark Curve. This could be very, very gnarly indeed. But Greg Giles just trying to thread the eye of the needle. It's going to be 3 across the line heading into Paddock Hill Bend. Who's going to be the bravest on the brave? Of the brave coming in onto the brakes? Well, Giles stays ahead of Dan and Thorne at the moment. Kirby's down to 10th position. And Tom Bunton is... there he is. He's just come through Paddock Hill Bend. He's about 4.2 seconds behind Kirby. So Tom Bunton is aggressively working the grid finder car, the number 88, right to the absolute limit, and he's done pretty well as we're just past the 21-minute mark.
Toby Owen, I'm sure, could attest to Tom Bunton's ability to make the tyres scream when it comes to Ford KAs in the real world. Tom has, of course, taken part in the EnduroKA Championship with the grid finder car. I love that they've almost exactly recreated that livery in game here on Assetto Corsa. It really does look magnificent. Aaron Kirby then stalking Thorne here for 10th place, or for 9th place I should say at the moment. Bunton keeping a watching brief there in 11th, as up the inside goes the 19 car. This of course is a car backed by Positive Perception, and one of our sponsor cars, and not quite able to get up into 9th place just yet. The ATM Motorsport number 199 car seems to be a particularly wide Dagenham product. I don't know if you can account for that, Alex, as a former employee.
Oh, well, that depends on how wide you want to make the back end of these things on a racetrack. It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, yeah, I've known Tom very, very well through my dealings with Gridfinder. Of course, Jem Hepworth ran with the Gridfinder team last year in the early parts of the EnduroKA 2022 season. Jem Hepworth has been racing all over the place. Praga Cup. She also raced in Senior Road Tax. Had the pleasure of commentating on in Senior Road Tax a couple of years ago. A great character, and it's great to see that so many people from so many different walks of life, you know, they might be looking to move up the motorsport ladder, but something like this is just so much fun. And I can, you know, if I got the opportunity to do my odds test, then this is definitely a series I'd consider, because it's bargain basement, bang for your buck, just like Toby Owen was saying to you a little bit earlier on. I have to give a shout out to my good buddy behind Positive Perception, Mark Granbury. I know you're watching, my good friend. Yeah, I mean, it's the quality of the racing, the closeness of the racing, and as I said earlier on when we started the broadcast about the fact it's a level playing field, it just makes it that much more interesting.
Scott Thorne has been demoted to 10th place then by Aaron Kirby, so Kirby has moved up to 9th position. ATM Motorsport, or rather AT Motorsport, have been demoted a position. Alex, if you're so keen on getting your ARDS license, of course, maybe you should enter the 2023-2024 EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. As we touched on at the top of this broadcast, the top 3 in this year's championship will get the opportunity to take their ARDS license free of charge, with a view to competing in the EnduroKA category, which is a massively cost-effective way into the sport, particularly if you take on a seat with 4 or 5 others as part of a big driver lineup in some of the longer races. It really is surprising just how cheap, even in these troubling times, just how cheap it can be to go racing at an entry level. MSVT definitely onto a winner along with Burton Power and the others with EnduroKA. Some of the grid numbers we've had over the last few years attest to that, and this Winter Sim series is a great initiative to try and bring more in from the world of sim into the real world. Scott Thorne trying his best to get back on to the rear of Aaron Kirby, but it looks as though Kirby's move for 9th place definitive, at least for the time being.
Yeah, but there's still 65 minutes to go, and you and I both know, Adam, that if something happens in motorsport, it invariably does, but you never know when that is going to happen. More to the point.
Yes, no, they've very much got the predetermined events on shuffle. We don't know what scenario is going to play out when, but we can be sure that there will be lots to come over the course of the remaining 65 minutes of this motor race. You can already see that it's getting dark. I think we're going to be working out some of these cars by torchlight before the end of this race. Nathan Down in 8th place. We follow him at the moment as he continues to observe from a distance Greg Giles of AG Motorsport. And well, a great distance from anyone else is Tom O'Farrell in the lead of this race at the moment. The JP Media Productions car, the number 97 Ford KA, well clear, 6.2 seconds ahead of Leon Hopper here in second position. The 88 car now with a little bit of breathing room over Simmons in third place. So after what was quite a perennial scrap in the first 20 minutes of the race, now that Hopper has definitively gotten past the purple sector racing car, it seems that Simmons is having to settle for third, at least for now. JJ Hind there in fourth place in that number 5 car, a driver who's storming through the order. Can't rule that man out for podium contention by any stretch of the imagination. Then it's Peter Jones rounding out our top 5 at this stage. Who's 15th? TBC. Look at this battle going on here as Andrew Greer-Hardy has Evans and Creed behind him. Nick Creed getting a good run there, but I think he had to lift out of it to avoid contact there with the rear bumper of the car ahead of him. Still got a good run though along the Cooper Straight into Surtees Bend, and Creed gets up into 6th place there. So Evans will have to try and hold on to the inside as they go through the last right-hand bend, and he does so. Almost a little bit of contact. I think the wing mirrors may have met somewhere in the middle, and deciding he's had more than enough of that, into the pits goes Evans.
I think he's probably decided that discretion was the better part of Alex. Like, I don't want to get caught up in this. And, you know, that can also be quite useful for the drivers to go, well, I'm not moving anywhere. Let's see how the throw of the dice by going in for a mandatory pit stop works out for me. So that could all change, but keep your eyes on Jamie Peters-Ennis, because things are changing. Jamie's now up into P13, and he's gunning for 12th now. He's really on the move, is Jamie.
Yes, indeed. He's got the inside line and the run. I think he's got it done. Ollie Ricks might try and follow him through as well, up against Kingston, who has dropped a few places, actually. Started all the way up in 5th place, did Joe Kingston Lee. But Ollie Ricks is now trying to find a way past him for 13th position. He's got a decent run along the Brabham Straight here, but of course he's got the outside line for Paddock Hill Bend. Jamie Peters-Ennis has checked out and said, you guys have that fight on your own. I see no point. I'm a pacifist in this scenario. See you later. Ollie Ricks has to settle for staying behind Kingston Lee for just a few more corners at least. Maybe just one more corner, because he's got the run up towards Druids. Darts to the inside, then to the outside. Ricks will try and carry the speed here through the outside of Druids Bend. Might use some of that runoff that's also inviting on the outside of turn 2 as well. And yes, he does. He's got the inside for Graham Hill Bend. Runs Kingston Lee to the outside of the circuit. Ollie Ricks there with an exemplary pass up into 13th, albeit a slightly less than exemplary exit from Graham Hill Bend.
Yeah, and he wasn't the only one making said exit as well.
No.
Andrew Greer-Hardy doing exactly the same thing, just a few car lengths behind.
Not to go lawn mowing where the runoff is so inviting. They've got what I believe would be known as Vallelunga style curbing on the outside of Graham Hill Bend, which really does invite a few wheels past the curb. Ollie Ricks, though, once again under pressure, because here comes Kingston Lee again, not taking this lying down in the slightest. The driver that started in 5th place really wants to stay in top 10 contention at least, holds on and retakes 13th place, as it were. Let's see if Ollie Ricks can perform a second move at Druids and Graham Hill Bend in as many laps. He's trying once again to find the momentum around the outside. This time he's not side by side with the 868 car ahead of him. Lovely Momo wheel on this virtual interpretation of the EnduroKA machine. Good run through Graham Hill Bend, and that wasn't just the curbing, that was the grass for Ollie Ricks, taking all the momentum he can and a little bit more. And well, certainly Ricks is having his work cut out for him at the moment. Let's see if he can get it done as they go onto the Brabham Straight again.
Yeah, JJ Hind has just gone into pits for his first mandatory stop. As folks, can you believe it? Nearly half an hour has flown on by. We ride on board with Ollie Ricks. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. We've also got the 22 in pit lane as well. That's Nick Creed from AFK Racing. So pit stops, I think, very shortly, Adam, could be fast and furious in the pit lane here at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, no, if you're a person that appreciates symmetry, you're going to make these 2 mandatory stops on the 30 and 60-minute marks, aren't you? I think we'll see a lot of pit stops incoming. Aaron Kirby still with Nathan Down just behind him. I was going to say, you talked about how fast that half hour flew by there at the start of this race. My first weekend back after the first wave of UK lockdowns was an EnduroKA 12-hour at Snetterton. And when the first pit stops started funneling in just over 2 hours into the race, I snapped my head and went, what's going on? Has someone got a problem? And then only then did I realise that we're already well into the 3rd hour of the race as Aaron Kirby goes defensive up against Nathan Down there for 7th place, holds on to it for now. Let's see if Down is close enough into Druids. I don't think he will be. Jones and Dunn also at close quarters up ahead. In fact, no, that's Dunn and Giles, my apologies. Kirby doing a good job of holding the inside there despite the protests of Nathan Down just behind him. And just to round out that Snetterton story, of course, being the first weekend of July 2020, I was the only person allowed in the commentary box that weekend due to various regulations at the time. So I did the 12-hour race solo, albeit with one sign language interview with Tim Harvey from about 20 meters distance to explain why he was in the pit lane being served a penalty. So the one and only attempt I've ever made at sign language, and being Tim Harvey, it wasn't necessarily broadcastable sign language, but we've had some excellent star drivers. Yes, we've had some excellent star drivers in EnduroKA over the years. It really does attract some of the creme de la creme in racing. Phil Keane, fairly, well, not regular, but he has made a few appearances in EnduroKA for IP Racing. They've chucked him and Adam Blair in the same car a couple of times. That's one of the more formidable driver pairings you can have in EnduroKA Racing. Some formidable single driver outfits here today in Brands Hatch in the Winter Sim Series. And a great battle for 5th place going on here. We saw it happening ahead of us a little earlier on while we were following the battle between Kirby and Down. But Colin Dunn doing a good job of managing this at the moment.
Yeah, that he is. And it's just about metering the gaps between the people either in front or behind you. And you've got to really gauge that as part of your strategy. If you don't do that, you could be at the... Oh, that was the in for Greg Giles right there. Lastminute.com dash into the pit lane with just past the 33-minute mark. So Colin Dunn has now gone, oh, I'm on me Todd. I'm on me own. And now also Bobby Simmons is in pit lane as well. So the pit stops are coming in thick and fast. As you alluded to, Adam, that if you've got a 90-minute race, you want to do 30, 60, and then go to the checkered. And you know, drivers will have decided, well, shall I fill the car up? Shall I have it 3/4 full? So sometimes some drivers might decide, like JJ Hind, go, well, you know what? I know I can run for 30 minutes on 3/4 of tank, on however much amount of fuel, then comes out, runs the same amount until the next pit stop. And sometimes you can always have it where if a driver knows what pace they've got underneath them, they can to a point measure the fuel that they're going to need for that car. So that's why JJ Hind was able to make up so many positions so early on, and he's currently running P12 at the moment. So I would imagine with the next phase of pit stops that could be due imminently for those that have yet to make their first mandatory pit stop, that could be quite crucial to how he gets on here tonight.
Into the pits has come Tom Bunton. So Bunton pulling in there at the end of pit lane in the 88 car as we watch Jack Mace measuring up Ollie Ricks here at the moment. Ricks to the inside at Paddock Hill Bend should stave him off for at least one corner, but that's a good run for Mace in the number 1 car. The Mace Motorsport entry with Jack Mace at the wheel. He's up the inside at Druids Bend. I'm sure he'll just lean a little bit to the outside to hold on to 9th place or gain at 9th place, and that's exactly what he does. Jack who has been very impressive so far this season, runs 5th in the standings, coming into this one up into 9th place. Let's see if Rix has any retaliation, and look behind, JJ Hind is on the run as well.
Has anyone got the Jaws music playing in their ears right now? Because I have, with JJ Hyde being as fearsome as he has been all evening long so far. You know, despite qualifying mid-grid, and he is going for the move up the inside of Ollie Rix there, and I think he's going to get the run. He's going to get the side draft here coming out of Clark Curve. Oh, and that was a good thing that JJ Hind decided to pull a little bit further to the right, get a bit closer to the wall, but Ollie Rix not giving this one up by a long shot. Rix goes high, wide and handsome. Through into Paddock Hill Bend, but JJ Hind gets through for 10th position.
High, wide and handsome, my nickname in college. Ollie Rix for 11th place, or down to 11th place at the moment then, with JJ Hind going defensive into Druids. That 795 car of Ollie Rix, I think, has arguably had some of the most camera time so far in this race. He always seems to be in amongst the battles here, does Ollie. He's braving any opportunity to go side by side that he can. I was going to make the point as well with these 2 mandatory stops, a strategy that we do see quite often actually in some of the longer, say the 6-hour, 3-hour races in EnduroKAs, is that the teams will take the pit stops consecutively. Nathan down into the pits as I say that, but they have been known to come in, do an outlap. That outlap is also an in-lap, and then make a second stop to just burn the mandatory stops away. They'll often do that during safety cars and the like, as JJ Hind goes up the inside and makes it another position up into 8th place, of course, because they've all 3 made positions up there. At the expense of Nathan Down. Nathan Down rejoining there in 11th place. And again, Down rejoins in 11th, which tells us once more, reinforces the fact that these pit stops aren't costing them much time at all.
No, not really, because it's quite a short pit lane here at Brands Hatch as well, and it depends on how long you're going to be in that pit box for as well, and that can be quite crucial. You want to minimise the amount of time that you are in the pit box, but then you also want to make sure that you don't break the speed limit, because we know what happens when you break the speed limit. Slam dunk penalty incoming.
I've never seen more glee on someone's face than the Snetterton marshals when they get the speed gun out and successfully catch someone in the act. I love the guys down at Snetterton. Always one of the best circuits for EnduroKA racing, especially because they typically use the 200 circuit, which of course is the closest to the former Snetterton layout before they built the 300 circuit over 10 years ago now. Geesh. Lots of slipstream opportunities, of course. You've got the Senna straight, then you've also got the Bentley straight as well. 2 very long straights with some interesting overtaking opportunities at the end of them. And a great venue for EnduroKA competition, as is the Brands Hatch Indy circuit, but in an entirely different way, of course, because this is much more of a roller coaster. You've got to get these things on their doors. Bobby Simmons, he's made a pit stop. He's managed to move himself down into 7th place as a result of that. He's got some lap traffic beside him there, I think, on the inside. In fact, no, Thorne is there in 6th place, so it's 3 wide for position, I think.
Oh, and Bobby Simmons goes round the outside as well, and he gets a tangle and he's sideways, but he catches it. Brilliant car control. Oh, my goodness me. Heart was in the mouth, palpitations, and Bobby Simmons with the save of the evening. Well, I never. And yeah, as you said, a la Jason Plato. That was incredible.
A la Jason Plato, although the wrinkle in that I've just been informed of in my ears is that neither of those cars were fighting Bobby for position. I thought at least one of them was, if not both, but they're both back markers. So that was an attempt at lapping from Bobby Simmons, and the heart rate went up. Interesting to see that Mark Cockerton is out there for Tockwith Motorsport. Now, I understood he wasn't going to be able to race because of technical issues, but perhaps I misinterpreted that. Great to see Tockwith Motorsports out in this, being represented in the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series with Mark Cockerton here. Of course, Tockwith Motorsport have had history at the Le Mans 24 Hours in the LMP2 class. They've run LMP3 cars. They've taken titles here in the UK with GT3 machinery in Britcar. And of course, lots and lots of Ginetta racing to this day as well for Top With Motorsports. Another example, as is the case with David Evans and Semprini Racing here in the 37, another of many examples of real-life crossover here on this grid.
That's the beauty of sim racing. You get, as I said, you get everyone from all walks of life. You'll get people who go, "Yeah, I'm really quick in the car in real life, but why am I just absolutely garbage at the sim?" And then they get used to it. They get used to spending hours, you know, a night or evening, or if they've got a free day, they'll spend a lot of time on the sim. So it's always about progression, and it's the same application with sim racing as it is, as you and I both know, Adam, with regards to both sim racing and real life racing. You know, there are professional sim racing drivers out there, multiple different teams, big brands involved as well. But yeah, I noticed that one of the cars that Bobby Simmons was trying to get rid of the outside of, but just so happened to be, I noticed it was actually the number 38 car of Alex Saville.
Right.
I think he
Yes, it
Peter
was.
Jones.
Oh,
Peter Jones has had a drama, and that is off Paddock Hill Bend, right at the end of the gravel trap, I believe.
it is Raffaele Marciello's favoured line coming out of Paddock Hill Bend if you were there in 2021 for GP World Challenge Sprint Cup, and it could well be see ya for Peter Jones's chances of a top 10 as the rear end of his car has foretold. He's falling through the order down to 15th place at the moment. We've got more cars peeling into pit lane, and Jones is still there, stranded in the gravel at Paddock Hill. The fact that nothing at all is happening in that virtual cockpit suggests to me that he might have had something like a steering wheel disconnect or something of that nature, perhaps a hardware issue preventing him from making any further progress.
Sometimes it can be something as simple as a disconnect from the server. Scott Thorne, funnily enough, in the AT Motorsport car, the 199, is currently sitting in the pits as we speak. As Bobby Simmons now up to 5th place, and about 4.6 seconds behind Kirby in the number 19. But yeah, the biggest thing, James Black not here tonight, so as you said, Tom O'Farrell is looking very, very good to go through, but Leon Hopper now in pit lane from 2nd position on at the moment. There's Tom O'Farrell in the 2F Media Productions 97 car. It's been a race that he's rather enjoyed. As soon as he's gotten the lead, and he's well decided, I'm not going to let go of it, considering he qualified on the front row alongside Leon Hopper, who did 101 laps, and Tom only did 37. Bobby did 42 in qualifying. Jamie Peters-Ennis 39 laps, and I think who's it? Joe Kingston Lee from KLF Racing did 53 laps in the session. Jack Mace 64. So Leon Hopper was, I think, in the Discord server referred to as Gridfinder's local stick.
Ah, I see. Okay, so Scott Thorne there in 11th place. He's got Cockerton in the top width car just ahead of him, exiting pits ahead of them. I believe that might be Kirby in 9th place. In fact, no, I am mistaken in that. That's someone a little further down. But to your point with Tom O'Farrell, as you said, 3rd in the standings on 79 points, tied with Colin Dunn on 79 apiece, 3rd and 4th in the standings. We'll come back to that because Scott Thorne trying to find his way through at Druids Bend. Nice wide line taken by Cockerton there to retain the momentum heading down into Graham Hill Bend. Scott Thorne, the American flag driver in the 199 car, trying to find his way past for AT Motorsport, but right now he's having to settle for 11th. But of course for O'Farrell, part of his race now that he's got a secure lead, other than just retaining his current momentum and hopefully taking it to the flag, he's got to hope that Bobby Simmons becomes a little bit in battle to try and get closer to the points lead as Scott Thorne gets the run coming down the Brabham Straight. He's going to have that car all the way past well before they get to Paddock Hill Bend. He just needs to try and square up Paddock Hill well enough that Cockerton isn't going to get a run, but Cockerton has stubbornly stayed on the outside through Paddock Hill Bend. He's not going to be able to get a better run, I don't think, through the corner. I think he may well have to settle for 11th place as they go into Druids.
I had to sort of have a bit, I grimaced there when Scott Thorne just like literally launched it over the curb through Paddock Hill, ran wide, and I was hoping that he wasn't going to have it coming together with Mr. Cockerton as a result. But we go back now to Greg Giles, who who's trying to make his way through, and he's got passed on down. That was whilst negotiating back marker traffic through clearways and Clark curves. So Greg Giles just threw it from, I think, probably Essex rather than Kent to get it through on down on that particular occasion, but just timed it well. And Nathan Down is still trying to keep the situation alive going through into Paddock Hill Bend, but he's going to get a better run coming up the hill. He's going to look towards the inside of Greg Giles, in towards Druids. There's a little bit of fender-on-fender contact, and Greg Giles runs a little bit wide into Druids. Nathan Down up the inside. There's more contact as they're going over at the crest of the hill, down towards Graham Hill Bend. Greg Giles was quickly in 7th, and now he's out of it.
That was a great move there from Nathan Down to move back up to 7th. He got his braking done nice and early into Paddock Hill Bend, rolled off the brakes, got the throttle early coming through the apex of Paddock Hill. Great run up towards Druids to move up into 7th. That was very smart race driving there for 7th place, as Greg Giles now tries to line him up for another run down the Brabham Straight towards Paddock Hill. I don't like it when they try and make space where there isn't that close to the pit wall. That's exactly what Greg Giles has done as the drag race continues on the run to Paddock Hill Bend. Giles once again with the inside line. It's a bit closer, a bit more equal between them going into the corner. Once again, Down tries to get the braking done early to get a better run, a slingshot, if you will, up the hill towards Druids, but he hasn't managed it on this occasion. Greg Giles has held on to 7th place for now at least, but this has the makings of a battle that will resemble a tennis match, I think. It's about 15 apiece at the moment in this set.
Yeah, it's deuce at the moment, and no one's claimed the advantage yet. Now there's also been a change. Colin Dunn from 2nd position for the Positive Perception with Dunn Motorsport car now in pit lane from 2nd position. But yeah, you know what they say, once bitten, twice shy, and Greg Giles just making sure that he kept that car on the inside line on the run up to Druids and didn't give Nathan Down an opportunity to get through, because Down had to sweep to the outside to try and get the undercut, but that in its own right didn't actually work.
Yeah, the key thing that time by for Giles was that Down was practically alongside him going into Paddock Hill Bend, which means he couldn't cut to the apex quite as early, and I think that cost him a little bit. We're looking back on the right side of your screen to, I believe, is that 18th
there's been a
position.
drama. Nathan Down was just sideways going through Druids. Tom O'Farrell has just pitted from the race lead. So yeah.
A moment for Greg Giles then, as O'Farrell has already exited the pits again. So again, these pit stops not taking that long. Our race leader has made his first stop just after half distance in this one. The gap has shrunk by about 20 seconds as a result of that pit stop. So I think we can take that as an index time of sorts. Nathan Down once again troubling Giles as they run towards Paddock Hill Bend. He's looking for the inside this time. Nathan Down hasn't been given the luxury of the inside at Paddock Hill so far in this exchange. He's got it this time though. He has the inside line, he has the space. Can he have the run through the corner? He leans on Giles. Nathan Down still with a nose to the inside at Druids Bend. We've got side by side for 14th, make that 13th place as well. Can't quite see which car that is, but off the circuit has gone Nathan Down. Down coming out of Druids, I think with a little bit of help from Giles, has ended up in the wall there, keeps the car going, but a bit of drama once again on the split screen as David Evans continues to joust for 13th place with Kingston Lee.
Yeah, and David Evans not able to get through at Graham Hill Bend. The number 30 from Semprini Racing still trying to get the overspeed down the Cooper straight into Surtees. Is he going to be brave and try and go for the inside and then try and get the switch back? Well, he lost a little bit of momentum going into the approach into Surtees. I think left front wheel just clattered the curb somewhat, so cost him a little bit of momentum. But if he can come out of Clark Curve, you know, quite wide, and then just try and see if he can get the run on Joe Kingston Lee from KLF Racing in the battle for 13th position, that could be quite helpful. Back to the battle now. This is Nick Creed, who's battling away with Tom Bunton. This is for 17th on the road. I think that there is a three-way scrap because they've got the 42 of Parsons. It's nearly 3 abreast going into Paddock Hill Bend, but Tom Bunton has got the move already completed before they hit the apex. So Creed and Parsons trying to bully Bunton into a mistake, and then Creed trying to go door panel to door panel. Well, he's around the outside, past, and it's now we've got Tom O'Farrell, the race leader, trying to negotiate his way through this. Come on, Tom, just get through there quickly, and then you'll be safe, son.
I'm sure that's the biggest heart rate spike he's had so far in the race, watching those three go 3 wide almost into Paddock Hill Bend in front of him. O'Farrell just needs clean seas or clear skies ahead of him, and he had anything but going into Paddock Hill Bend that time. Creed still with pressure from Saville behind for 19th position at the moment. O'Farrell still the unwilling 4th participant in this 3-way battle for 17th position. No, it is 18th position because it's Parsons from Creed for no, Bunton 17th, then Parsons, then Creed. So yes, battle for 17th place with our race leader trying to go up the inside of Bunton. Oh, guys, please be careful, Bunton. Mr. Bunton, you sponsor this series. Don't take out the race leader. He doesn't, but he does lose a position. The 42 car of Parsons moves himself up into 17th, takes a very wide line. They make contact. I think the 2 wheels locked a little bit there, and it's all sorts of bumper car shenanigans going on here. Nick Creed gets himself into 17th place despite the best efforts of Parsons in their identical Haggerty-backed cars. Bunton says, you know what, guys, if you're going to keep doing that, I'll try and go through the middle, down the Cooper Straight and towards Surtees. They're still making contact. There's not a straight panel left on the side of any of these cars, and somehow they're all still pointing in the right direction. Advantage Parsons, at least for now.
Well, if the Who would say, they definitely sure play a mean pinball, and that was definitely pinball wizard between the 3 of them over at least half a lap. But you know, credit where credit is due. I mean, you know, Parsons took advantage of it. Creed got through, but then Tom Bunton went, "Oh, thread the eye of the needle. I don't care. I'm going through the middle." And I had my heart in my mouth when I saw that one. Tom Bunton, you're going to need to have the defibrillator on standby for us in the commentary position right about now, because there's still 37 minutes and 50 seconds to go. You can't have a drama like we saw with Nathan Down, who's still actually running in 8th position, give him credit where credit is due. But Tom Bunton is still trying to channel his inner Joker lap with Matthias Ekstrom Flair through Graham Hill Bend, and now he's going to try and see if he can slip past Parsons. Because we've also got the well, the picture is right. That means that Parsons has hit the wall backwards, and yes. There goes. Now that was through into Clark Curve, heading into Clearways and into Clark Curve. So Parsons was backwards in the barriers, through an assist with Tom Bunton. Both arguing over the same tarmac on the circuit. Neither was going to give way, and then of course something did have to give, and it was Parsons' rear bumper into the barriers.
What we were seeing in picture was David Evans losing out to Jamie Peters-Ennis, who continues to rally after his early dramas, got punted, or at least helped out of 4th position in the early stages of the race. I believe he will have made 1, if not both, of his pit stops already at this stage, since he is still down there in 14th at the moment. Of course, Evans from Semperini Racing has experience in these KAs. He's also got plenty of experiences in the likes of his EP3 Honda Civic Type R in various series, including, I believe, the MSVT Track Day Trophy, which is kind of the next level up, in a sense, from EnduroKA for those who are using the MSVT route up into club or national level racing. EnduroKA definitely the most accessible way into real life racing competition for those who are keen, including our sim racers. A reminder that the top 3 in this championship at the end of Laguna Seca round number 6 will receive the opportunity to take their ARDS license test free of charge. If you're unfamiliar, the ARDS license is your basic UK circuit license. From there, of course, you get into the National B licenses, but ARDS is your first step on the ladder on your way to becoming a fully certified racing driver here on the UK circuits, and a really great initiative from MSVT, from Grid Finder, Burton Power, and the EnduroKA organisers to organise this very unique and exciting sponsor pot, as it were. I would certainly like to take my arts license. I've been told several times to do it, so I can have a go in a friend or two's race cars. I should enter next year's series as well. I already told you to do it, Alex. I might do it too next year.
Yeah, so we'll have other commentators commentating on 2 other commentators. There's a lot of
Well, Mark
word
Werrell,
commentate.
Mark Werrell is a regular commentator slash driver, and I note that he's on the result sheet for this year's EnduroKA Winter Sim series as well. So he's been plying his trade in the commentary box and on the sim rig in this series too. So while I acknowledge that Mr. Werrell is far more race driver shaped than I am in real life, in the sim, all bets are off.
Yeah, that makes 2 of us, mate. That makes 2 of us. I've had the pleasure of actually commentating on Mark and the C124 Hours in Silverstone a couple of years ago when he was actually racing behind the wheel. And also another person who I have interviewed who was racing at same set event was Mr. David Christie, who's also been on the commentary roster of the EnduroKA Winter Sim series as well. So, yeah, I mean, if I can get myself a sim rig, get the relevant software and everything in place, I will definitely be up for entering, that's for sure.
Interesting. 2023-2024 grid already filling up then for the EnduroKA Winter Sim series, and I remind you, entries are open now for the EnduroKA 2023 season in real life, so do get registered if you want to take part. As up the inside there, I believe that might be 8th position, 7th and 8th position. We're going to need a full screen of that battle. Kirby up to 7th place, so yes, that is Kirby now running in 7th. He's got a nose ahead there. He's gotten himself by, I believe that is Nathan Down. As what did you see there on the other side of the cam?
Well, Nathan Down was trying to instigate a little bit of touching, and that was definitely the case because Kirby had a bit of a sideways moment going down the Brabham Straight of all places. Mamma mia.
There you go. I was trying to use one eye for each side of the screen, and clearly it failed me because I missed that, but I saw some of the argy-bargy into Paddock Hill bend there between Down and Kirby. So Nathan Down has been demoted to 8th place. I seem to remember saying that a battle between Kirby and Down would be ongoing for some time to come, and it still very much is at the moment. That number 40 car all over the back of the 19. Nathan Down, well, you know the rest of the line. He's not going to give up.
No, I know the rest of the line on that one as well. So, oh, Nathan Down has just now. Was there? I think I heard a beep of a horn as Nathan Down decides to go down pit road for possibly what might be the final out of the 2 mandatory pit stops that all drivers have to complete tonight. As Colin Dunn is closing in. Oh, Greg Giles, you better watch your rear view mirror because he's closing at a big old rate of knots as they go through into Druids. So this is the battle for 5th position on the road, and then between Greg Giles and JJ Hind, well, the gap just says it all, 18.1 seconds. Hind has been on an absolute mission tonight, but you can see the gaps between 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. They're round about sort of 6 to 7 seconds apiece, as Colin Dunn really being, you know, trying to be on the aggressive side, trying to get past Greg Giles. Is he's going to try and go tighter into Clark Curve, try and get the overspeed, carries the car a little bit wide. Now here comes the slipstream, folks, as we ride on board with the number 19 Positive Perception with Dunn Motorsport car, and they're both trying to cling to the wall on the right hand side of the Brabham Straight. Greg Giles is not wanting to give Colin Dunn an inch of tarmac or real estate heading into Paddock Hill Bend.
Absolutely not, as Dunn wrestles the wheel there going into Paddock Hill. You can certainly see these things getting quite physical and sometimes three-wheeling through Paddock Hill Bend on race day. I remember at Ford Power Live in 2020, these guys, the EnduroKA competitors, actually had sprint races uncharacteristically on the bill. And I'll tell you now, that was some of the most fun racing I've ever seen. 15, I believe they were 15 or 20-minute races. I want to say 15-minute races with these little things. That was abject carnage, but very good fun to watch all the same. Colin Dunn, again with a nice run out of Clearways Clark bends, and now going down the Brabham Straight with the tow from Giles up ahead. Now Dunn surely won't be granted the inside line. Giles is leaving the door open a little bit there. He's got to be careful with that kind of thing. Colin Dunn decides that discretion is the better part of valour, and as cautionary as I was being there about taking the inside, it's wise not to if you don't have to, of course, because that'll stifle your momentum coming out of the corner if you take a tight run into the corner.
Oh, this is getting a bit gnarly here because we've got Cockerton versus Bunton, and the gap between them is next to nothing. So Tom Bunton, after the incident he had with Mr. Parsons a few moments ago, has got himself pointing the right way, staying away from any clear contact or fender bending with other KAs on the grid here tonight. I mean, he did start from pretty much stone dead last because of missing qualifying earlier on today. JJ Hine from 4th position now into pit lane, from what I would gather is going to be his last pit stop of the race. But Tom O'Farrell still leading on lap 58 with a 5.1 second advantage over Leon Hopper. So, and Bobby Simmons still holding on quite solidly to that 3rd place position.
Hopper, if anything, if he hasn't been retaining the gap between himself as O'Farrell, as Colin Dunn goes a little bit rallycrossy out of Paddock Hill Bend, but Hopper, if he hasn't been retaining, I would suggest he's been gaining slightly on Tom O'Farrell. That gap down to just on 5.1 seconds at the moment. It's fluctuating around that low 5 zone. It was about 6 seconds, albeit about 10 minutes ago. So it seems as though gradually, slowly but surely, Hopper might be chipping away. Not sure if both of them have served both of their stops. I think in the case of O'Farrell, it might have been just one stop down so far, and I believe that would be the same case for Leon Hopper in that case. Of course, they all have to make their second and final mandatory stop before the final 10 minutes of this race. The pit window started with 10 minutes of the race completed. So with 80 minutes left to go, and it will shut with 10 minutes left to go. So not long, in the bigger picture at least, for these drivers to make their second and final mandatory stop in this race. Nick Creed is someone who has made a couple of stops. He's there in 13th position, hassling the back of Jamie Peters-Ennis. He's just a couple of car lengths back at the moment, but he decides to come into the pits. I said I thought he'd made both. Clearly not. He's back into the pits.
It's like, do I, don't I, do I, don't I, yes, no, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go in the pit lane. It's sort of like a split-second decision like we saw a bit earlier on with the Lewis Hamilton type situation of in. It's like, stay out, because if you are in the pits and it's a chicane going into the pit lane here at Brands Hatch, so if you decide to go in, you have to be fully committed, otherwise that barrier will not treat you kindly, as Scott Thorne trying to get onto terms with Joe Kingston Lee in the KLF racing car, the 888 car, going through into Surtees. Now this is the battle for 9th position. We get a nice picture-in-picture we actually see from the right-hand side, and they are squeezing each other going through into Clearways and Clark Curve, and Scott Thorne just scrapes through as Kingston Lee goes into pit lane.
Yeah, Kingston Lee realised he was going to end up with the outside line there, and decided to duck out of the situation to make that pit stop, which was probably wise thinking from Joe Kingston Lee of KLF Racing. That is the 888 car. He started off the season remarkably strong, a 5th place finish and a 5th place finish in the first 2 races, so 2 top 5s so far in the season. His last 2 rounds though, 8th and 12th place, so he would at the very least like to be back into the top 10 come the end of this one. Of course, he started in his best finishing position of the season. He started in 5th place, but based on how we saw him fall through the order a little bit in the early stages, and the fact we just saw him fighting on the fringes of the top 10, I think 5th place might be a far stretch at this point. But of course, we'll have to see where everyone lies in those final 10 minutes. That's when the picture will really become clear. We have just over 25 minutes of racing in the books, 60 laps exactly in the books in this one, and it is Tom O'Farrell 5.4 seconds clear of Leon Hopper, so that's actually gone up by a few tenths in the last couple of laps. Then it's Simmons in third place. Bobby Simmons, our championship leader coming into this one, sits third place at the moment. He's only been off the podium once this year, so that run of form could well continue here today. The car we're watching, Greg Giles, sits in fourth. And then it's very close for fifth and sixth place between Colin Dunn and JJ Hind. JJ Hind, who we've seen make some exciting maneuvers so far in this one. He, I think, is gearing up for an attempt at fifth place here. Let's see if Dunn gets to the inside or tries to power around the outside at Paddock Hill Bend.
Yeah, and Hind has been consistently running in the mid 102, so he really has electrified the pace as Dunn did a 1 minute 2.9 on that last tour of the circuit here at Brands Hatch. And JJ Hind looks to the inside towards Druids. There's probably just about enough room for him to get through. They are going to be side by side. Nyon coming out of Druids. But Dunn keeps the position for the moment, but Hind sweeps to the inside in towards Graham Hill Bend. Dunn, well, just handsomely just put the pedal to the metal, kept it pinned round the outside. JJ Hind unable to counter-attack, but I think it's not going to be a case of if, it's going to be a case of when JJ Hind gets through for what will be fifth position. And with the pace that he's showing at the moment, you know, you look at Greg Giles, he's not too far up the road either. He's about a couple of seconds away from this battle, up in fourth position.
And there's some lap traffic to contend with as well as they run towards Paddock Hill Bend this time. So pick and choose your slipstream, JJ Hind. He goes for a little bit of both, actually, on the run down into Paddock Hill. That is the 26 car that he tries to get past, but goes very sideways on his way towards the apex at Paddock Hill Bend and end up missing it entirely. Chris Humphreys in the 26 V-Fast Internet car, having to take a wide berth there at Druids. JJ Hind gets past, but of course this is the X factor of these races. Quite a few cars on a short circuit often means lap traffic in abundance. Tom O'Farrell is into the pit lane for his second visit and rejoins about 9 seconds back from Hopper. Leon Hopper then inherits the lead for the time being. He has made one of his 2 stops. We'll have to see now how long Leon Hopper goes before making his second mandatory pit stop. He's got exactly 13 minutes to do it.
Yeah, it really is starting to close in on certain parts. Here's Ollie Ricks being handed by Jamie Peters-Ennis. Now this is for the last position in the top 10. Kirby now dives into pit lane. As Jamie Peters-Ennis looking in towards clearways, and Ricks is around. I think there was a slight bit of netcode there, possibly bit of latency, and Ollie Ricks has been, well, I mean, it was the slightest of nudges, and Ollie Ricks decides, well, I'm going to go into the pit lane, and nearly clobbers the left-hand side wall going through the chicane into pit lane entry. But yeah, Leon Hopper up until that point, you know, was waiting for the opportunity. I mean, he's got 12.25 minutes still to do his second and final mandatory pit stop, and how long he is in there will determine how quickly Tom O'Farrell regains that lead, because the gap at the moment with 22 minutes on the clock remaining, Adam, is just 9.4 seconds, and we saw that Tom O'Farrell had less of a lead when he pitted just a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, so interesting that was for Ollie Ricks. I think he tried to do the traditional front-wheel drive salvage method, which is boot it, and it went against him on that occasion. Rejoins the race in 14th with Creed for company there in 15th. Nick Creed, who was just outside the championship top 10 coming into this one. I think he will move into the top 10, the likes of Frank Frostick, who sits 10th in the standings, and Gary Preble in 8th. Neither of whom are here, and that would suggest that Nick Creed could be on for a move up into the top 10, although he would like to be a bit further up the point scoring ladder here. As it stands, 15th place, that's a decent result. It puts points on the board, but if he can make any more positions up before the end of this one, he will do so. And well, he's looking to the outside at Paddock Hill Bend. Normally say, well, that's a non-starter, but we've seen it work several times already during this race. We're firmly into the darkness here, and Ollie Ricks may have a bit of a dark cloud hanging over him after that moment we saw a couple of laps ago with Jamie Peters-Ennis. And Ollie Ricks takes the inside line at Druids Bend, just about defending up against Creed for now, or is he? Because Creed uses that momentum from the outside of Druids Bend, gets it done very tidily indeed, going through Graham Hill, although not a tidy exit in the slightest. Ollie Rick says, okay, I'll go straight back past you, thank you, and good night for now. And I get the feeling they're going to have another joust into Paddock Hill Bend in just a few seconds.
Yeah, very much the case. I mean, I've noticed that Tom O'Farrell's lap times, he was running in the mid 104s, he's now running in the mid 103s, so the pace is starting to come to the 97. I mean, this is going to really help his cause towards, you know, getting within the top 3 in the championship standings, because of course we've got a couple of drivers not here tonight, including the driver that is currently 2nd in the championship at the moment. So the more that Tom O'Farrell can have an opportunity, as Rix is really having to battle away with Nick Creed. I mean, this is just getting a bit too close for comfort. You just don't know what's going to happen. But more importantly, folks, 9.5 minutes until the pit stop window closes for round 5.
You'd be a brave man who would put a GoPro on this part of the car that we're seeing on that onboard shot in real life, but thankfully virtual cameras much cheaper and more disposable. So we've got a great onboard shot there in the picture-in-picture here, bolted to the side of Nick Creed as he continues to stave off the advances of Ollie Rix. This battle for 14th position, of course, one of the main storylines we're keeping our eyes on right now is right there at the sharp end of the order. Tom O'Farrell has made both of his pit stops. Pole sitter, lest we forget, Leon Hopper has only made 1. He is just a few seconds to the good at the sharp end of the order right now. It's actually extended out to 11.8. It was just over 9 seconds when Tom O'Farrell exited the pit lane a few moments ago. Now, maths, very basic maths, will tell you that O'Farrell will rejoin or will retake the lead, probably with a good few seconds of advantage after Hopper's 2nd stop. But the pace seems to be with Leon at the moment in that 88 car. I wonder if maybe we spoke to Toby Owen. Toby seemed to think that bolting on tyres could be a thing here in this 90-minute race. I wonder if Leon has done just that.
Yeah, that's the key point. And if Tom O'Farrell decided to throw caution to the wind and not put the tyres on, as just ahead of Joe Kingston Lee, there's someone spinning around. Not too sure who that was, actually. Didn't really quite catch it because we're into the deep of night here.
No, I didn't quite identify that one either, but very Kylie Minogue, that's spinning around at Clark and Clearways. Joe Kingston Lee to the outside of Mark Cockerton at the moment. This is a battle for 16th place. Oh, and synchronized spinning. Do both keep it in the right direction? Well, just about. Cockerton with a little more grace than Joe Kingston Lee. I think Cockerton just tried to fold towards the inside a little bit too soon, and or Kingston Lee may have just drifted out in the what little aero wash there is in these cars. But nonetheless, 16th and 17th place there with some synchronized sliding, and miraculously neither car ends up embedded into the gravel or indeed the tyre wall. Good job.
Yeah, well held. I mean, I think it was the 2nd time that we've seen drivers come into contact. I mean, Bobby Simmons' absolute monster save earlier on in the race was a joy to behold, and something to actually literally be quite scared about, especially if it was in real life racing, folks. But Tim Parsons now has got, now I recognise that livery on the car that's trying to get past him. That's what I love about this, that you can even hear the cheeky little horns. They're like beep beep beep, you know. It's just like, it sounds like a very reduced taxi horn, only they're a lot louder than what a KA has on it as a standard road going horn.
So that was Jack Mace, who currently runs in 5th place. We haven't spoken about Mace a lot recently. We noted that in the early stages of the race he demoted himself down to about 19th after making an early pit stop, as Leon Hopper, speaking of pit stops, is into the pits for the 2nd time. So critical stuff going on in the pit lane at the moment. But interesting to see that Mace is up there in 5th position. We'll see where he comes out eventually. Coming out now is Tom O'Farrell, or rather is Leon Hopper, and he rejoins behind O'Farrell to the tune of about 6 seconds, maybe 7 seconds, once he gets the car up to speed. Hopper, as anticipated, then rejoins the race behind O'Farrell. He's got 15 minutes and 35 seconds to try and reduce a gap of 6.6 seconds, it looks to be now. And, well, it's not impossible, but it is quite a sharp gradient on that particular mountain he's climbing, as Peters Ennis. Oh, Jamie Peters Ennis with another moment, rejoins the race. We didn't see what started that, whether he fell or whether he was pushed, but nonetheless, Peters Ennis demoted to 12th place there. Andrew Greer-Hardy goes past him, but the woes continue for Jamie. Love that, I believe that is a Racing Pride livery on that car. Yes, it is. And Jamie Peters Ennis, though, having a difficult day today. He'll be hoping to at least salvage a top 10. He's still in contention for it there in 12th place.
Yeah, I remember working with Jamie at Silverstone National alongside Jake Sanson, and it was quite a significantly wet weekend. We had multiple different championships going on. Mark V production, GTI production championship, and the Mark II GTI series. And Jamie, unfortunately, was in the pit lane with us on Saturday, and it was so wet, the transmitter from the roving mic got saturated multiple times, as did poor Jamie, and I felt so sorry for him at that point. But yeah, I mean, well, Jamie coming back to now is that he was not, I don't think he was that far away from Nathan Down, who's still stuck in 9th place, as there's going to be a few last minute someone's just clattered into the wall on the pit lane. Oh dear. I did mention that, Mike. I did mention about that earlier, didn't I? And I was like thinking, hopefully no one clatters into it. Someone just has. Yeah,
that chicane catching out Chris Humphreys in the number 26 car there. Chris has usually been in the wars. He's either been in very complicated traffic-related scenarios, and now he's had a bit of a fight with the pit lane entry chicane. So interesting times indeed so far for Humphreys in the VFast Internet machine. We take a look now at Nick Creed in 14th place. He's got Semprini Racing's Evans just ahead. David Evans in 13th position. We're starting to see where everyone is shaking out. A majority of the field, I believe, has now made both of their mandatory pit stops. We, of course, know that the top two have both done so. And still at about 6.6 seconds, that gap between O'Farrell and Hopper. It's a very big ask for Hopper to try and get to the back of Tom O'Farrell before the end of this one. O'Farrell has been, on race pace at least, in a league of his own. Of course, Hopper was our pole sitter, but O'Farrell made short work of him before they even got to Paddock Hill Bend on lap 1 of the race. There's still time for drama, though. Championship leader Simmons in 3rd place. We follow Bobby Simmons across the line at the moment, and well, if he does take this 3rd step at the podium, that is once again a great result for Bobby Simmons. He started the season with a 2nd place at Donington. The Silverstone National Circuit was next. That was his maiden win in the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. His only time off the podium came at the Snetterton 300 circuit. That was 6th position, and he won last time out at the Alton Park International Circuit, the full Alton Park layout. A 4th podium in 5 races would certainly strengthen his grasp on that championship lead.
Yeah, he's probably more than likely got one hand on the trophy because of the fact that, you know, a couple of the drivers not here, which we've mentioned. I mean, Mark Beaumont has been a regular in this series. We both know him through the Rye House Pro Kart series that Andy Burton has also competed. They still have a team, so Burton Power still races in that particular championship at Rye House Kart Raceway. So Mark Beaumont was not here tonight because of the fact it was the opening round of the RHPK summer season, which runs from March all the way through to November. But yeah, James Black is going to be kicking himself that he's not here tonight. But you know, it means that Bobby Simmons has that one hand on that trophy, and then when they go to the season finale in 2 weeks' time on March the 18th at Laguna Seca, to wine country in Monterey, California, that's going to be interesting to see cars, EnduroKA cars, going down the hill at the corkscrew as Aaron Kirby sends it up the inside. That's through Clark Curve on Nathan Down, and they are side by side coming out of the corner. Kirby's not giving an inch, Nathan Down's not taking a mile, but I think Kirby could get the run down the Brabham Straight. He's got the inside line close to the wall on the right hand side. Nathan Down is literally nigh on door panel to door panel. Down goes wide to the top part of the hill at Paddock Hill Bend, but Kirby gets through.
Can't help but notice that the brake lights are on in perpetuity on these cars. You see that the little light strip on top of the boot lid is on permanently. I assure you they're not hovering over the brakes to that extent, but Aaron Kirby and Nathan Down continue their fight of 1,000 years, or at least getting on for 90 laps around this Brands Hatch Indy circuit. Kirby takes a little bit more of the runoff, and let's be honest, the grass than Nathan Down on that occasion in what has been a brilliantly entertaining scrap, perpetually within the top 10 to this point. But they do have to worry about some of what's going on behind them, because they've got Greer Hardy there in 11th. He's just 3.9 seconds back, and then of course in 12th is Jamie Peters-Ennis, who's only 1.3 back from Hardy. So they've got 2 cars within 5 seconds behind them, one of whom of course started well up the order and is only outside the top 10 owing to incidents largely out of his control. So no guarantee that both of these drivers are going to end up finishing in the top 10, particularly if Aaron Kirby gets as close to the grass as he did on turn-in at Paddock Hill that time.
Yeah, and that could be very much a squeaky bum moment as well. If you clobber the curb and you go wide out of Paddock Hill Bend, then all kinds of dramas can ensue, and we have seen that many a time at this Kent-based circuit. So yeah, Aaron Kirby's got to try and do something if he can, but keep your eyes on Jamie Peters-Ennis. He's not too far. He's actually closing that gap to Andrew Greer Hardy for 11th position. The gap was at one point about 1.4, 1.5 seconds. It's now down to just a shade over a second now, as Kirby again trying to go up the inside of Nathan Down. This could be getting towards a bit of paint swapping through Clark Curve. They rub front fenders, and that was a very Herbie-esque moment right there. It's like, with the horn, absolutely priceless. 8 minutes and 30 still to go, folks. Pit stop window closed a minute and a half ago, and Kirby and Down are absolutely at loggerheads. And Jamie Peters-Ennis is not too far behind Andrew Greer Hardy. Is again, they're going to rub panels going through into Paddock Hill Bend. Down the hill onto lap number 78. They have got a car behind them. That might be Tom Bunton. Oh, don't tell me, Tom Bunton, you're going to stick your nose in this one, please. Just be careful. Or is that Leon Hopper? I'm not too sure, because they've both got the identical liveries.
It's the 88. It's Bunton. It's Bunton.
Oh, well, there we go. It's... Oh, dearie me. Tom, you will...
Or is it not? I thought it was the 88.
I think it is Hopper. It is Hopper who's trying to make his way through. But he needs to just be a bit patient. He can't risk an issue if the two in front come together and he gets caught up in the crossfire. That's definitely not what Leon Hopper will want, but in the meantime Nathan Down has started pulling away ever so slightly from Aaron Kirby, so there's a few little contretemps between the two, sort of eliminated everything into sheer obscurity.
It's taken me some 83 minutes of this race to realise that both Hopper and Bunton are running the 88 car. Oopsie daisy. But in my defence, that doesn't normally happen. But Hopper, yeah, will be wanting to, try and stay within firing range of O'Farrell just in case something happens to him. But instead, he's losing time hand over fist as this battle for 9th and 10th place continues in front of him. The gap was around 6.5 seconds between O'Farrell and Hopper about 3 or 4 laps ago. It's now 8.2 and only expanding, so Leon definitely losing time, and apparently the blue flags have gone missing.
They definitely have in this consideration. Jamie Peters-Ennis is within lunge range of Greer Hardy in the battle for P11, and what's more, folks, there is the battle for 11th position, but what's even more interesting is the fact that both Greer Hardy and Peters-Ennis are not too far behind the two in front. And considering the fact that Jamie Peters-Ennis, if anyone might remember, qualified on the outside of row 2, and as Adam alluded to earlier on, that Jamie has been involved in some, let's say, some contretemps more than anything, some of which might not be of his own making, as Leon Hopper's trying to thread the eye of the needle, going through into Druids. Please don't scare Adam Weller like that. He's going to have a coronary in a minute. There's Aaron Kirby looking towards the inside of Nathan Down into Graham Hill Bend. This is the battle for P9. Down round the outside, Hopper around the on the inside. He nearly made it 3 wide coming down onto the Cooper Straights. So Leon Hopper gets through on Aaron Kirby, and now what he's got to do is get past Nathan Down quickly.
Oh, and that's not how you do it. He got into the rear of Nathan Down rather than getting to the inside of Nathan Down there. It was Down that did the threading of the needle going into Druids and what was almost a 3-wide situation. He managed to keep himself in 9th position, and Leon Hopper got involved in that one for 3, side by side between Peter Ennis and Greer Hardy. Peter Ennis with the nose ahead of Andrew Greer Hardy. Surely he's got this one done. Can he carry the momentum despite going defensive through Paddock Hill Bend? It looks as if he has. Let's see if Greer Hardy has anything in response as Leon Hopper trying to find a way past Nathan Down, and I think he's done it. Peter Ennis cuts the nose off of the green and yellow car of Greer Hardy to move up into 11th place. Now, historically, as Peter Ennis has been on this recovery drive, once he's through, he says see you bye and moves on to the next battle. He's got 4 minutes and 45 to get involved with that very juicy 2/3 car scrap, depending on whether you want to include Leon Hopper, and he's only a couple of seconds down the road. I wouldn't mind betting that Peter Ennis is going to make a late bid for the top 10, and if Nathan Down and Kirby continue to fight as they have done for the lion's share of this race, you cannot rule out that 46 car currently in 11th position.
Yeah, Rossi fan recognising Rossi fan. Sorry, I had to take the words out of your mouth that you said earlier on as well. So, but 1.5 seconds is the gap. Jamie Peters Ennis has just put in a 1 minute 3.2. Kirby just put in a 1 minute 3.7. So maybe in the next couple of laps or so, it might be a case of Jamie closing in. Wait to see what the 46 has in the tank, because with 4 minutes still to go, not 100% sure what might transpire, but Down and Kirby at each other's doors, both do well. Down was channeling his inner Valtteri Bottas going through the grass coming out of Graham Hill Bend on that particular occasion. So Jamie Peters Ennis is the danger driver right now, and that is going to be, well, not just Jamie, but also Andrew Greer Hardy, because Greer Hardy is coming along with Peter Ennis for the ride with 3 minutes and 20 seconds to go. So I think we could have an apple cart upset in the battle for what is 9th on the road, because Leon Hopper has now gotten away, got through and bolted, and that has now allowed Peter Ennis and Greer Hardy to really pick up the pace.
Yeah, Greer Hardy, in no uncertain terms, is staying there with Jamie Peters Ennis. Of course, it's so interesting, especially with some of the drivers that partake in real life in EnduroKA competition. Given these are, 15 to almost 25-year-old road cars that these EnduroKA machines are built from, you can end up building a race car and only realizing once you get to the track that it's actually got a bit of a dud engine. Of course, the engines are relatively cheap to source if you want to fit a new one in and see if that serves it any better. But that is not a factor in this sim series. All the cars are identical, but Peter Ennis putting in anything but an identical performance relative to Nathan Down on this lap. He has closed that gap down significantly. It's around 0.8 of a second now. He's within slipstream range. He'll be getting a little bit of a tow as he runs down the Brabham Straight towards Paddock Hill Bend. 2 minutes and 5 seconds left on the clock, and Tom O'Farrell is our race leader by 9.4 seconds. He looks to be set in stone. Nathan Down on much less firm ground. Peter Ennis with the run towards Druids Bend, sides up the inside. He's into 10th place by a nose. Oh, and a little bit of contact between the two of them. Can Nathan Down retaliate? He tried to get to the inside line for Druids, cutting across Jamie Peters Ennis, but he couldn't quite do it. A little bit of a meeting in the middle between them. But for now, mission accomplished for Jamie. He's up into 10th place. He's now got to try and withstand the pressure from Nathan Down, who we know stays in any given fight for as long as he is permitted. He is definitely going to retaliate. It might even come here at Clark and Clearway. Sure enough, he tries to get to the inside. He does help Jamie Peters Ennis to the outside of Clark and Clearways, and he moves back into 10th place. But Jamie Peters Ennis is now going to have the slipstream as they run down the Brabham Straight, and keep an eye on Andrew Greer Hardy. All of this has allowed Kirby to disappear up the road for 9th place. This is now a battle for 10th, 11th and 12th place, and Peters Ennis has the outside line. We're in the final 60 seconds of this virtual motor race, and Jamie Peters Ennis is doing all the hard graft right now to try and move into the top 10. A salvage job. damage control, as it were, for Jamie Peters-Ennis. He's once again to the inside at Druids Bend. He can't quite get it done. He's got to be mindful of Andrew Greer-Hardy behind him as well as they descend towards Graham Hill Bend for what I believe will be the penultimate time in this race for them. And also, almost, I think, starting the final lap right now will be our race leader. But Jamie Peters-Ennis in the thick of it here.
Yeah, definitely trying to do the level best to get through for that 10th place after what's been a great qualifying, a difficult race for the number 46. White flag is out, so final lap with Tom O'Farrell leading by 9.8 seconds ahead of Leon Hopper, with Bobby Simmons rounding out the top three. 22 seconds covering the top three after nearly an hour and a half of racing, and that is it for 90 minutes. One more lap to go, Adam Weller.
Clock strikes 0, and Jamie Peters-Ennis will continue to try and find a way past Down, but it looks as though Down had a little bit of a safety net behind him. Or saying that, they've just switched on the timing screen. I think Nathan Down and Jamie Peters-Ennis may have had a moment at Paddock Hill Bend. We'll come back to that later on. I'm sure we'll find out what goes on in the wash afterwards. Let's focus though on Tom O'Farrell. O'Farrell, who needed a good result today, came into this one third in the standings. He has had a smorgasbord of different results. He's had a 16th, a 7th, a 4th, and a win. It's only going to be his second time on the podium, and it's going to be his second time on the top step in the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. He crosses the line with a buck and a weave to take the win in the 97 car. A great result for O'Farrell, his second win of the season. Leon Hopper converts pole position into second place after a good scrap with O'Farrell that was largely determined by the stopwatch rather than the fenders. Bobby Simmons, our championship leader coming into this one, will still have a handsome and extended lead in the championship. Third place, his closest competition, James Black, not here today, so that leaves the door open for Bobby Simmons to put at least one hand on the trophy going into Laguna Seca, our season finale. JJ Hines takes 4th place. Mace will take 5th. Greg Giles coming across the line for 6th place. Let's see what's going on in 10th, 11th and 12th if we possibly can, because there's been switching and moving and shaking. In fact, they've already crossed the line, my apologies. And Nathan Down was in the pits as he crossed the line in 11th place. So something happened there with Nathan Down. We saw on the timing screen that drama was ongoing. Everyone has now taken the checkered flag, but goodness me, what a race that was. In the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. It was fairly textbook stuff from Tom O'Farrell, I grant you that, but at no point did we not have action to talk about, Alex. What a stonking motor race.
Bobby Simmons with the save of the night, sideways after slight contact through Paddock Hill Bend. I was on tender hooks when he lost the back end, probably booted the throttle, turned it the other way and went, right, I'm going to catch this. Got the job done. Jamie Peters-Ennis gets a shout out for what was set to be a really, really good race, was battling for the race lead. Alton Park finished second. Could have had another step on the podium this round, but for Jamie, it was a fight back beyond all belief. Every single mountain, the number 46 came through and ended up rounding out the top 10. Leon Hopper, Grid Finders ringer, I think, or local stick. Maybe. Leon did a great job, kept Tom O'Farrell on his toes. But yeah, Bobby Simmons, exemplary drive and really just showcased that he's, it was a real shame we didn't have James Black tonight, because then we could have really seen it go down to the wire for the championship in 2 weeks' time on March 18th at Laguna Seca.
I will say, if there's ever to be a late twist in a championship, Laguna Seca would be the place, wouldn't it? I don't think it's wrapped up yet for anybody. We'll have to wait and see. But certainly Bobby Simmons has come one step closer to the championship after that one. I believe we are actually going to be able to talk to Bobby now. I believe Bobby is here in the commentary box with us. Yes, he is. Championship leader then, Bobby Simmons. Another podium for you, 4 podiums in 5 races here at Brands Hatch, our longest race of the season so far. How was that from your perspective?
just wow, just chaos all through the race, organised chaos. It was nice, fair racing right at the start. Every lapped car I passed was very fair, and the track looked amazing in the dark.
Yeah, no, it really did. As it went into darkness, it was a spectacular sight. Obviously, that third place on will do you wonders in the championship, especially since James Black isn't here this weekend. You've got one hand on that championship, and also, of course, one hand on one of our free ARDS license tests, and I think all but confirmed that you'll be somewhere in the top 3 as long as you cross the line next time. If you do end up with an ARDS license free test in your pocket, is it for you or is it for someone else?
It will be for me, as I don't have a race license yet, as I'm only 19.
Okay.
So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens.
And given your virtual KA experiences that you've had so far, I would like to assume I'll see you in the real EnduroKA paddock if you do get that license.
That's definitely the aim. If I get the money together, that's definitely the aim.
Good man, good man. Obviously, a great result for you today, and the Brands Hatch Indy circuit. Today, Laguna Seca next time. Of course, Laguna Seca was down to a public vote. Was it your vote?
Yes, it was. After careful consideration, I thought, you know what? Let's give Laguna Seca a go. It should fit these cars very well.
Have you launched it down corkscrew in preparation yet?
I haven't, but I'm going to attempt to roll it through there.
Oh no! I've seen this.
Not in the race, I must add. Not in the race.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad that has been cleared up at the very least. But another solid result for you there, Bobby. It really, I mean, the key to your championship so far has been consistency, and I mean, obviously, that's a good hallmark for someone looking at club level endurance racing. So I think you're looking very sharp at the moment, I must say.
That's the hope. That's the hope.
Alex, any questions for Bobby?
I just have one. Well, firstly, I have one statement, Bobby. Well held when you tried to get round back marker traffic going through Paddock Hill Bend. Politically correct terminology here in answering to this question. What were the first words that went into your head when you found out you were going sideways down a blind apex?
Was this the contact with Alex as it was free wide
Yes,
into?
yeah.
It was very much just wow, and then I just carried on. just wow. That's all I could think.
Brilliant.
I was like, that was an interesting, and then just carried on, got my head down. That's all you can do in these races.
Bobby, well done tonight, and congratulations on another podium finish, and good luck for 2 weeks, mate.
Thank you very much.
Excellent to hear from our championship leader, our first position on today's podium. That, of course, being Bobby Simmons. And second place in this one, it was the hired gun, as it were, one of our 288 cars out on the circuit. Thank you for making that a little bit complicated for me. We should have with us our second place finisher. We should have Leon with us. Is he already here? I don't see him in the commentary box with us at the moment. Leon is here. Okay, Leon, second in this one. Obviously, you started it on a pole position, but didn't get the start. Did you just bog down or something, or was it just a matter of Tom being a little bit of a supersonic starter?
So, hi, first of all. But I think, first of all, that he did an extremely good start. But second of all, it was the first time for me driving the car, and I realized I should maybe check how to start the car. Seems like just letting the clutch fly is not the smartest move. I was first gear wheel spinning. But overall, I got into the race with the thought already that I tried, but I didn't fully believe that I could compete against Tom, simply because I saw him in the practice coming in, driving 10 laps, being on absolute top pace. I was still till my pole lap finding out new things about the car. and how to actually drive it. Never used to drive a front-wheel car, then with such low power output. But overall, it was an awesome experience, and the race was a whole lot of fun.
Now, my colleague Alex Goldschmidt here in the commentary box referred to you as the resident stick of Grid Finder. If you end up with an invite from, say, Mr. Owen or a Mr. Bunton to come and join them in a real life EnduroKA after this virtual experience, will you be taking that offer up?
I would absolutely take that offer up. Problem is probably more like I would need to fly to the UK.
Yes.
But such an offer I would never decline.
Hint, hint, hint. Alex?
Yeah, Leon, firstly, a great effort tonight. Yeah, quite interesting to hear when you said about, yeah, maybe I should have tried to find out how to actually get a good start in the car. But, you know, we saw that you kept Tom very, very on his toes when it came to deciding on strategy, and with having 2 mandatory pit stops, being a longer race and going into the night time. What were the biggest challenges, as it was the first time that you were racing this car?
So, as I said, the biggest challenge for me was getting the confidence in the car to take everywhere, really the speed through the corners, because that's the problem with the the small amount of power. The moment you are just tenths too late on the throttle, you are losing 2 tenths on the straight. So that is definitely the biggest problem. I checked before the race how long the tires would hold and realized I think I'm just gonna make the first pit stop in 45 minutes. And then the feld should have already a bit more spread, because I believe many are gonna do like straight on the half an hour, and it also happened like that. So I should have less traffic. And then just shortly before the timer ends, the pit timer, just jumping in, put 1 liter of fuel extra and went out of there. So I was pretty sure that I felt like when trying it out before the race, that is a strategy to go 2 times tire switching or no tire switching. I had the feeling maybe no tire switch is possible, but I didn't thought that it is faster. So it was a clear choice for me what I'm about to do. And then also saw that Tom, I think, did exactly the same strategy. So I felt at least that one I definitely got right.
Yeah, quite
Excellent
interesting
to hear.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was just about to say sorry, Adam. Yeah, it's just quite interesting to
fine.
hear, because myself and Adam were talking about, you know, if tire strategy was going to come into it, and we did see that in the latter stages when Tom was about, you know, had made was making his second pit stop, and we saw that you were quite a considerable amount per lap quicker. But no, Leon, congratulations and well done on a second place finish tonight.
Thank you very much.
Great to hear from Leon, who definitely kept Tom O'Farrell honest all throughout that 90 minutes. Usually a few seconds away on the timing screen, but Leon Harper was always right there. Tom O'Farrell, though, has taken a second podium of the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series season, and for the second time on the podium. He's only ended up on the top step. Tom O'Farrell, Leon was definitely close competition for you. I'm sure you're elated after that one.
Oh, mega stuff, honestly. I just don't get it. How I can not be on the podium constantly, and then just when I am, it's a win. It's fantastic. Over the moon.
No, it definitely was an impressive drive from you today. Of course, with James Black absent, that should also put you into second in the championship, which going into Laguna Seca would put you in a strong position to maybe get one of those 3 elusive prizes, the ARDS license free tests. In your instance, would it be a matter of transitioning from sim into real life for the first time if you won one of those?
Hopefully, yeah. Obviously, that's the plan. But yeah, it's racing. Anything can happen. Obviously, budget, real world wise, is obviously going to be an issue. So yeah, I've not had a great sim series this time out, with lots of issues for me, really. So we'll just have to see what happens 2 weeks' time, because I could quite easily lose those top 3 positions. So it's still all to play for.
Well, you know what? After if you say that it's not gone brilliantly after 2 wins and second in the championship, I would really like some more of your sim record on my CV, because mine's nowhere near this successful. It was really impressive to see the fact that you built that gap early on, and at least in terms of the timing screen, it looked like things were trouble-free. But there are at least a couple of instances where we saw you ending up with 3 cars ahead of you fighting for position, and you having to kind of politely squeeze through. Those are never easy moments for a race leader, are they?
No, I must admit, I felt really bad for the 3 guys involved in that one, because I think it was Gridfinder's Tom that lost out big time in that battle when I got past. So yeah, sorry, Tom.
I'm sure the benevolent Gridfinder boss man will more than forgive you for that. But over to my colleague Alex to further pick the brain of Tom.
Tom, just really one question. Did you have a tyre strategy coming into this race? Because we did see that Leon was closing in after, he was really pushing and trying to sort of not put the frighteners on you. But did you have a strategy of whether you were going to change tyres or not? Because we know that with the fuel on these EnduroKA cars, they can last for quite a long time. So the fuel's not an issue. It's more a case of, with Brands Hatch Indy being the way that it is, did you have a concern of whether you might have to take on tyres at all?
I did take on tyres. So yes, okay, all right. Secret's out. So I, during the week, did a tyre test, and I lasted 60 laps on one set of tyres before basically my lap times fell off by like 2-3 seconds. So I went, right, okay, we're going to change about the halfway point, and that should mean that I have the pace to continue. Obviously, I knew that as long as I stayed in the 1 minute 2s, that was kind of safe, because obviously the back markers and everything. So yeah, I don't know what everyone else did, but I'd be surprised if anyone, to be honest, stayed on one set of tyres, because during my tyre test, they were shot at the end of it.
Yeah, well, Tom, congratulations on the win tonight, and good luck at Laguna Seca in 2 weeks. Well done.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you to everyone that's watching as well. Cheers.
Lot on the line for Tom O'Farrell and those in top 3 contention here going into the final race of the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. I will remind you, the top 3 in this championship will be given an invite to take a free ARDS license test, the first step on the ladder into real-world motorsport. And the 18th of March will be the date where all things are determined. 2 weeks' time, they will be in Laguna Seca here in the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. We must say, before we go, a big thank you to our sponsors, Gridfinder, MSVT Racing, and of course the EnduroKA Real World Championship, Turn 7, Positive Perception, and Burton Power, all of whom do a lot of work to make the EnduroKA category possible in real life and on the sim. Coming in to the final round of this 2023 Winter Sim Series season, it will be Bobby Simmons with one hand and 4 fingers on the title. But it's a trip across the Atlantic and from the East Coast to the West to Laguna Seca for season finale in 2 weeks' time. I'm going to be on the edge of my seat watching it. We hope you'll join us too. Thank you from myself, Adam Weller, and Alex Goldschmidt for joining us tonight. See you in 2 weeks for the season finale.
Goodbye.